Hello, my friends. It's time again. This episode of the podcast, this is July 4th weekend. So I know you're going to be out there at the lake or the beach, taking your clothes off, trying to look sexy in your swimsuit, and it's probably a disaster. We can help you, ladies and gentlemen. This episode is brought to you by Onnit.com. That's ONNIT. I've always been a big proponent of kettlebells because it's one of the first weightlifting things that I've ever done that allows me to kind of get like the whole workout in. Like a lot of times when I used to lift weights regular, I'd lift weights and then another day I'd do cardio. I'd do one day weights, one day of cardio. But with a really good kettlebell workout, I get a brutal cardio workout and it allows me to get it all done in one shot. I'm a huge fan of them. It's fun to do, and it makes you feel like some Russian savage living in Siberia back in the 1930s or whatever the fuck they invented these things. What they are is it's like a cannonball with a big metal handle on it, and you swing them around, and in doing so, in all these various exercises, you develop what they call functional strength, meaning strength for your entire body, not isolated individual movements, but your entire body. And did they have no chimp? Where's the chimp,
Yeah, I was
man?
going to say, something's missing.
The motherfuckers ran out of chimps.
He ran away.
No, we must have run out. Those fucking things sell like crazy. That's the primal bells. The primal bells are these new kettlebells that we had. This is the most important thing. They look cool as shit. We have chimpanzees, and then we also have zombies. We have apes, rather. We also have zombies. But the most important thing is that they don't just look good, but that they're 3D mapped. What we have them is we made sure that all of the kettlebells that you're getting, they're not imbalanced. Like you can make a cool face, but if the cool face wasn't balanced, it would kind of defeat the purpose of a kettlebell. The whole idea about a kettlebell is it's got to be balanced when you move it. So it looks badass, but you get I use the Gorilla, and you get a really good workout with it. It doesn't feel at all like a gimmick. Even when it slams into your arm with the gorilla face first, if you're an idiot, if you're not paying attention to how you're swinging the kettlebells. One thing that I can really not stress enough when it comes to this stuff, if you're thinking about doing any kind of physical activity, if you've never worked out before, you've got to do two things if you can. The one thing, the if you can part, is hire a personal trainer to show you how to do the movements correctly. Just, find out. There's someone who'll do it for you. It'll probably let you iPhone video it, and let someone show you how to do like a clean and press, how to do a windmill, how to do these things correctly, and then videotape it, and then you can do it on your own. And you could literally never have to go to a gym again. With a chin-up bar and a couple kettlebells, like you can get ferocious workouts in on a daily basis. But start slow. If you're a meathead like me and you're a dummy, and if someone says take 3 vitamins, you're like, I'll take fucking 5 and see what's up. You could hurt yourself with these things. Start slow. We have 35 pounders. We have 18 pounders. The howler monkey is 18 pounds, and we go all the way up to 70 pounds with the primal bells. But if you're a real savage, one of those bona fide fitness freaks, like perhaps one of those CrossFit dudes who enter into those championships, that bitch-ass 70 pounds is probably not going to be enough for you. If that's the case, we sell them even heavier. The heaviest ones we sell, I don't know why they do them in kilograms. I guess that's out of respect to Mother Russia or some shit. They all say kilogram.
At least they don't say poods anymore, whatever that was.
Yeah, we got rid of pood, but now it's still in kilogram. Okay, what the fuck is 40 kilograms? Let's find out. Let's tell people.
Why would they even do
I think it's 88 pounds. Let's see.
Weird that they would do that.
Yeah, it seems odd.
Fucking Americans, man.
What is 40 kilograms in pound? Yes, it's 88 pounds. So that's the heaviest one we have. If you can throw around an 88-pound kettlebell, you are some kind of man. For everybody else, start slow, be healthy, and like I said, it's my favorite all-time method of just physical exercise, just, without martial arts being the obvious number one, but just for regular exercise. Kettlebells are the shit, and it feels good. It feels good when you do them. You're stretching out a lot of the movements, so it's got almost like a yoga sort of a vibe to it, like windmills. Windmills are some of my favorite things to do. Super good for your core and your back, but again, do them slow. And if you're interested in any of the Onnit supplements, use the code word Rogan, and you will save 10% off any and all supplements. All right, Crash from the Float Lab is here, ladies and gentlemen. So without any further ado, and no more fuckery afoot, let's get rolling.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Ladies and gentlemen, for many of you who've heard this podcast before, you're aware of a thing that I'm really into called the sensory deprivation tank. And the sensory deprivation tank was invented by a guy named John Lilly, who is a scientist and a real freak, like a guy who is just really out there. Really fascinating guy. And he wrote a book that I picked it up on, I think, like Amazon.com, like the used books that they'll sell you, like individual sellers are selling. And it's The Deep Self. And in it, he talks about the benefits of the tank, it detailed construction on how to make your own tank. He's got like diagrams in it, and just really, really fascinating guy. And he was into all sorts of weird altered states of consciousness. And one of the things that he wanted to figure out was how to separate the body from the senses. And he came up with a bunch of different designs. There's a movie, Altered States, that's kind of very loosely based on, the idea of a guy like him going completely haywire and becoming like a monkey. That's how I got into sensory deprivation tanks. I saw Altered States, and they were historically fairly accurate in the design of the tanks. The initial one that you saw in Altered States showed what Lilly had first came up with, which was like a glass scuba helmet that sort of suspended him in regular water, and he would actually poop and pee into it. He had like some crazy filtration system so he could stay in there and not have to defecate or urinate, so it would go through some system that he had created. I mean, this dude was gone. He was off the deep end. I mean, he's about as off the deep end as ever. But his big thing was to try to figure out how you can get the mind free of the influence of the body. And the best method he came up to was this idea of the tank. And he figured out eventually to put salt water in it. And that if you put enough Epsom salts, your body would float. And then he could maintain the heating temperature to essentially what's the same temperature as the surface of your skin. And you wouldn't be able to recognize where the water was. And it would give you this sensation of complete sensory deprivation. And he figured this out. And from that point on till I met you in, what was it, like, how many years ago was it?
5 or 6 probably.
5 or 6 years ago. And before that I had that other gentleman who used to repair tanks for Samadhi, who's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he told me about you. And the guy was fixing my Samadhi tank. My Samadhi tank had fucked up. Something. It wasn't the tank that fucked up. It was the heater. Like, it burnt through the lining of the waterbed. And it shorted out the whole thing. It was a disaster. Like, sometimes those heating elements, they'll pop. For whatever reason, they cook, and it just melted a hole through the thing. So he had to repair it. He had to repair the lining. And while he was repairing the lining, he goes, there's this guy in Venice that makes these like really high-tech tanks. And he goes, you should contact him. His name is Crash. He's kind of an interesting guy. And so I asked him about it, and he went into depth about all the crazy shit that you had done to these tanks and what they looked like. And he sent me to your website, and I saw the tank. This is pre the stand-up tanks. They were still like smaller, like ones like Samadhi, but way better constructed. You had figured out how to do it where it was just like this. It looks like a meat locker. I mean, it's so solid and well built, and all your crazy filtration system and everything. And I realized that you were this one lone dude out there who was innovating in this sort of forgotten business, this sort of forgotten aspect of modern day understanding of the mind. I mean, it was ignored somehow or another. I don't know what happened. I don't know how all these scientists and geniuses missed out on the sensory deprivation tank promotion. They should have been talking about it everywhere. It is a mind-blowing evolution in meditation. It's a mind-blowing next step in meditation where you instantaneously go, if you get good enough at it and you do it long enough, you instantaneously can go to psychedelic states, intense, introspective, objective psychedelic states that are they change your life. They fundamentally change the way you think about life. And the fact that these people aren't promoting this, because it's not a drug. It's totally safe. It's totally easy to acquire. It's totally it ends anytime you want. You open the door to get out, and it's over. There's no repercussions. There's no weirdness to it. You instantaneously drift back into normal consciousness. No one's talking about it. No one was doing it. And I found you. And Brian created this video. Brian was the guy who made that video where we went down to the basement and videotaped the tank. And from that video on, we started hearing more and more people opening up these centers. They started going crazy. They started opening up all over the place. And you continue to innovate. And you haven't said a word yet, by the way. Have you noticed that?
Well, no, I don't have to. I mean, I'm just nodding my head. I mean, you're doing such a good job at your appraisal of the situation that, I don't want to dilute it.
No, I just feel like I'm yapping too much.
Not at all. No, I'm really enjoying this because you are the guy that 6 years ago, whatever it was, that first understood that too. Not only was I out there, kind of standing around by myself, but when I found you, then that really escalated the exposure in general, and that just isn't for me, or it has to do with industry overall. Once that you became, because you're an honest guy and your opinion, people trust it, and when you say something, then that it has value. There's other been people say, oh, this, that, whatever. It doesn't have that sincerity, the true, from what you believe type thing. It's a lot of times influenced by this or that. But once and you've been, like I say, even with the Vice thing was a big thing with this.
Hamilton Morris, it was great. He's
incredible.
Great.
And without you, that wouldn't have happened. It's just, these things help out everybody right now because the industry deserves a opportunity to expand and become available to people in general, because it is an important thing to a person that's in the process of considering what it is that they're doing with themselves, which I think is very important for people to take responsibility for their actions and what they do and what they say, because you can you're free to do that. You're allowed to be different. You're allowed to go ahead and say, you know what, I don't think this is quite the way that this is becoming actually more popular now. This is like freaky people that are able to go out and say, oh, well, hey, maybe that. And they're going, oh, yeah. They're doing all kinds of weird stuff. I don't even know what a Pilates is, but it's catching on.
Right.
I don't know if it's just our neighborhood or what it is in LA, but there's different yoga, spinning, all these different activities that people do. And a lot of the crossover too currently is based on these athletes. That you have contact with or that respect your perspective or whatever, and they show up. That guy, Jeremy Stevens, was here the other day again. Yeah. And then I watched him on a clip the other day. I don't know when that fight was from.
It was this past weekend.
Is that when he got that guy down?
Amazing fight.
He kicked him, and then...
No. That was a knockout that he had in the previous fight.
Man, I just saw that the other day. Did you guys?
That was in Brazil. Yeah, incredible.
And
Jeremy
such
Stevens
a nice guy.
Great guy.
All those guys,
very smart too.
Oh yeah, no.
A lot of those guys are surprisingly nice and surprisingly smart. I think a lot of people have this idea about people that are involved in combat sports that they're mean or they're assholes.
Quite the contrary. I find to be some of the most level, well-adjusted people we come in contact with. They're not trying to prove anything, because they're already secure with who they are.
Yeah, they're more level. That's the best way of putting it. Like, because you're forced to get your ego checked on a super regular basis, and when that happens, you just have a better view of things. People are constantly afraid of losing, and when you're a fighter, you lose in the gym all the time, and you kind of mellow that out. You get an understanding of who you are, and also the blowing off of the energy in the gym. You feel so much better. You're more chilled. You're more relaxed about stuff. Like a lot of people, a lot of what their stress is that their body's a battery. Their body's building up all this energy, and it never gets exerted. So you're taking in all this food. You're sitting in a cubicle, you're sitting in your car, you're sitting at the movies, you're constantly sitting and not doing anything, and you're just irritable. Your body's just trying to, dude, you fucking move, get something going, come on. We got all this shit pent up, and then someone would get in front of you in traffic, fuck you!
Oh, yeah.
And people wonder where that's coming from. Well, that's coming from you're all backed up. You know, you are backed up. I know there's nothing scientific whatsoever to what I
The
just said.
trigger is short on some of us, you know.
Yeah.
They're pretty.
It's also, you know, you're not getting your endorphins that kind of calm you down. And I think that the tank represents a level of that in some way. That I think that it's a thing that should not just be something that it becomes popular, but something that it becomes popular in a way where people get a chance to do a new thing that they could get excited about, which is one of the things that people like with like Pilates or yoga, a new thing that they could be excited about that could benefit them mentally, which is where I think we're missing out on a lot of this stuff. I think yoga does benefit you mentally. I think it calms you down, and it's very good for you physically. But the physical aspect and the mental aspect coincide. With the tank, it's 100% mental. It's a weird experience.
Plus, it's available for a human being to actually participate in this meditation where you sit in a room with your legs crossed and you're supposed to check out somehow.
Yeah.
I can't do that, but I go sit in that box for a few hours and go all kinds of different things.
You know, the meditation is possible. I know that there's people that do that Kundalini yoga and they have these intense psychedelic visions, and I believe them 100% because you do have endogenous chemicals that the brain produces that can give you psychedelic experiences. Like we know about dimethyltryptamine and we know about 5-methoxydimethyltryptamine being produced by the human body. So if those are being produced by the body, there could easily be some ancient method of stimulating that production, of releasing some sort of a burst of that production. And so these super Kundalini masters, which seems like it would be something you'd want to do, but for whatever reason, I'm not compelled. I'm not compelled enough to learn it. But they can experience natural DMT trips at the highest levels of their art form, which I believe. I think you just got to get really good at sitting there. You know, you just got to get really good at yoga positions. You got to get really good at meditating. You got to get really good at just getting good enough at yoga physically that you could just sort of fall into these forms. And then when you're falling into these forms and supporting yourself in some way by making your body work like that, you like heighten your expression to whatever it is that yoga is trying to tap into. And it's very psychedelic, but it's still not